The soft jazz music floated through Le Maison D'Or, Manhattan's most exclusive French restaurant, where reservations were typically booked 6 months in advance. Crystal glasses sparkled under custom chandeliers, and the subtle scent of truffle and herbs wafted from the kitchen. My mother had chosen this spot for our monthly family improvement dinner, her subtle way of reminding me how far I was from meeting family standards. "Sophia, darling, you're late," my mother said, barely looking up from her menu. My sister Elizabeth sat beside her, both wearing designer dresses that probably cost more than what they thought I made in a month. "Traffic," I replied simply, sliding into my seat. In truth, I'd been finalizing acquisition paperwork, but they didn't need to know that yet. "Oh right, still taking taxis everywhere?" Elizabeth smirked, adjusting her diamond bracelet. "You know, Michael could get you a great lease on a proper car." The waiter approached and my mother immediately took charge. "We'll start with the 1982 Bordeaux," she declared, then turned to me with a practiced look of concern. "Don't worry about the wine, dear. I know your startup salary has limitations." I suppressed a smile, thinking about the documents my lawyers were finalizing at that very moment. "That's thoughtful of you, Mom." "Well, someone has to look out for you," she sighed. "I still don't understand why you left your position at Goldman Sachs. Vice president at 32, it was such a respectable title." "To start some kind of food delivery app," Elizabeth added with a dismissive wave. "What was it called again?" "Dine Connect," I said quietly, checking my phone as another notification came in. The acquisition was proceeding perfectly. "Ah yes, like Uber Eats but smaller?" My mother's voice dripped with disapproval. "Darling, there's no shame in admitting defeat and returning to banking." The waiter returned for our orders. My mother and Elizabeth rattled off elaborate French dishes, while I requested a simple coq au vin. "Oh, Sophia," my mother interjected, "let me pay for something more substantial. The wagyu perhaps. I know fine dining is out of your budget these days." My phone buzzed again. A message from my CFO. "Final contracts ready. Le Maison Group acquisition complete in 3, 2. "Actually, Mom," I began, but was interrupted by the restaurant's manager rushing toward our table, his face flushed with excitement. The next few moments would change everything. "Speaking of your app," my mother continued, swirling her wine, "your father is quite concerned. He's had to explain to his club friends why his daughter is delivering food instead of managing portfolios." I took a sip of water, remembering the morning's board meeting where we'd finalized the acquisition of not just Le Maison D'Or, but the entire Le Maison Group, 20 of the most exclusive restaurants across 3 continents. "Your sister has just made senior partner," my mother added, patting Elizabeth's hand. "And her husband's surgical practice is thriving. Meanwhile, you're living in that tiny downtown apartment." "It's a loft, Mom." "A loft," she repeated with distaste. "Darling, you went to Princeton. Your grandfather was on the Federal Reserve Board. This little rebellion has gone on long enough." Elizabeth leaned forward, her Cartier bracelet catching the light. "You know, there's an analyst position opening at my firm. The salary would at least let you afford proper restaurants." The sommelier approached with the wine, and my mother made a show of handling the tasting. "You see, Sophia, this is what refinement looks like. Not all those takeout containers you deal with." My phone vibrated again. A message from my executive team. Forbes article ready to go live. Wall Street Journal exclusive scheduled for morning edition. Dine Connexo acquires Le Maison Group in $890 million deal. "Mom," I started to say, but she was already launching into her familiar lecture. "When I was your age, I was hosting charity galas, not playing with phone apps. Your grandmother would be mortified to see you working in food delivery." The waiter brought our appetizers, caviar for them, a simple salad for me. My mother's eyes narrowed at my choice. "Let me pay for your meal, dear," she said with that familiar condescending smile. "You can't afford fine dining on your current income." Just then my phone lit up with the final message. "Acquisition complete. Management has been notified." I saw the restaurant manager, Jean-Pierre, rushing toward our table, clutching an iPad and looking both excited and nervous. Behind him, several staff members whispered and pointed in our direction. My mother was still talking. "Really, Sophia, it's time to rejoin proper society." She never finished that sentence. "Ms. Walker." Jean-Pierre, the manager, reached our table, practically vibrating with excitement. The papers just came through. The acquisition is complete. We're honored to be part of DineConnect's restaurant division. My mother's fork clattered against fine bone china. Elizabeth choked on her $500 wine. I don't understand, my mother said slowly, her perfectly manicured hand gripping the table's edge. What acquisition? I smiled, finally allowing myself to relax into my chair. The Maison Group acquisition. All 20 restaurants across 3 continents. The paperwork was just finalized. Jean-Pierre nodded enthusiastically. Yes. And we're so excited about Ms. Walker's vision for expanding the brand while maintaining our excellence. The merger documents value the deal at $890 million. Elizabeth's face had gone pale, her designer lipstick now a stark contrast against her bloodless lips. But that would mean that your little sister owns this restaurant? I finished for her. Among others, yes. As if on cue, every phone in the restaurant started buzzing. The breaking news alerts were going live. My mother's hands shook as she read from her screen. DineConnect CEO Sophia Walker acquires luxury restaurant group in billion-dollar deal. You see, Mom, I said, taking a slow sip of water, DineConnect isn't just a food delivery app. We're a technology company that revolutionized the entire restaurant industry. That little startup processes over $12 billion in transactions annually. Jean-Pierre beamed. Ms. Walker's technology has transformed how high-end restaurants operate. The AI-driven reservation system alone has increased our revenue by 40%. My mother's wine glass tipped over, spilling red across the white tablecloth. She didn't even notice. But you live in a loft, Elizabeth stammered. I own the building, I replied calmly. Actually, I own most of that block. The tiny loft is the penthouse. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at it and smiled. Perfect timing. The stock market is responding to the news. DineConnect shares are up 12% in after-hours trading. Stock market, my mother whispered. Yes, we went public last year. Rather quietly. I'm surprised you missed it, Elizabeth, given your position at the firm. It was only the largest tech IPO of the decade. The sommelier approached with another bottle of wine, his hands trembling slightly. Compliments of the house, Ms. Walker. We've been instructed to treat the owner with our finest. The owner, my mother repeated numbly. About that, I said, reaching into my simple leather bag. I have some changes planned. I pulled out a sleek folder with the DineConnect logo. Starting with the menu. We're going to make fine dining more accessible while maintaining the exclusivity this establishment is known for. Elizabeth was frantically Googling on her phone. Her eyes widened. Forbes lists your net worth at, oh my God. Those numbers are a bit outdated now, I mentioned casually. They don't include today's acquisition. My mother finally found her voice. But all those times we offered to pay, to help you, were unnecessary, I completed her sentence. Though watching you try to save a billionaire from financial ruin was rather entertaining. Jean-Pierre returned with a team of staff members. Ms. Walker, the executive chef, would like to discuss your vision for the new fusion menu, and the board members are waiting for a video call. The next morning found us in my actual office, the entire top floor of a gleaming downtown skyscraper with panoramic views of the city. My mother and Elizabeth sat stiffly on the Italian leather sofa, their expressions still shell-shocked as they watched staff members hurry past with tablets and presentations. This is quite different from food delivery, my mother managed, clutching her designer handbag like a lifeline. DineConnect was never just about delivery, I explained, gesturing to the digital walls displaying real-time data from thousands of restaurants worldwide. We revolutionized the entire restaurant industry. Our AI predicts food trends, optimizes inventory, and transforms dining experiences. The delivery app was just the consumer face. Elizabeth flinched as she saw her own restaurant reservation appear on one of the screens. Every high-end restaurant in the city now ran on our platform. Your father's club, my mother began hesitantly. They use your system, don't they? We power their entire operation, I confirmed. That club friend Dad was so embarrassed to face. He's been desperately trying to get an investment meeting with me for months. My assistant entered with a stack of newspapers. Every business section carried the same headlines. DineConnect's restaurant empire expands. Tech mogul Sophia Walker revolutionizes fine dining, Wall Street's new queen, the billionaire who changed how we eat. I still don't understand, Elizabeth said, setting aside her untouched coffee. Why live like you were struggling? I walked to the window looking down at the city I'd quietly helped reshape. Because success isn't about impressing family at dinner parties. It's about creating actual value. My phone buzzed, the Maison group board waiting for their new direction. You both spent so much time focused on appearances on what others thought. Meanwhile, I built something that actually matters. Darling, my mother stood, smoothing her dress nervously, if we had known. You would have treated me differently, I finished. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I wanted to be underestimated. It made everything easier. My assistant reappeared. Ms. Walker, the Prime Minister of Singapore, is holding regarding the Asian expansion. Speaking of expansion, I turned to my family. I'm hosting a charity gala next month, raising funds for culinary education in underprivileged communities. You're both welcome to attend. Of course we'll come, my mother said quickly. I can help plan. That won't be necessary, I interrupted gently. The guest list includes 3 heads of state and multiple Forbes 100 CEOs. My team has it handled. Elizabeth stared at her phone, still scrolling through articles. Your net worth. It's more than our entire extended family combined. True, I acknowledged. Which reminds me, that standing offer to pay for my meals. Let's reverse that. I'm instituting a family dinner every Sunday at Maison D'Or. My treat. Sophia, my mother began, tears forming in her perfectly made-up eyes. We were so wrong about you. Yes, you were, I agreed, checking my watch, a subtle Patek Philippe worth more than their cars combined. But that's the past. Now if you'll excuse me, I have an empire to run. As they gathered their things, visibly humbled, I added one final thought. Oh, and Mom? Next time you want to lecture someone about proper society, remember, I own most of it. The door closed behind them as my assistant announced the next meeting. On the screens, DineConnect's stock price ticked higher, and reservation requests for Maison D'Or had tripled overnight. I smiled, remembering my mother's condescending offer to pay for dinner. Sometimes success tastes sweetest when served with a side of revelation.